Am I the a-hole for getting it elsewhere since my wife didn't want to have sex anymore? Basically, my wife has decided unilaterally that we are done having sex. She found out that she cannot have kids due to a choice she made before we met. And kids apparently are the only reason she was willing to be intimate. I love my wife and I enjoy being intimate with her, but it was making our marriage untenable after 2 years of this. So I posted for advice. I got a lot of great support and suggestions about how to talk to my wife. I tried a lot of it. I started going for counseling for myself as well. But no matter how I approached her about our situation, she would not try and see it from my point of view. Every discussion would end with her crying and screaming in my face that I'm trying to emotionally manipulate her. I then wrote her a letter outlining my feelings and asking her to come with me for counseling, to seek it for herself, perhaps to go see a doctor. I was kind and loving in the letter. The last thing I wanted to do was set her off. I worked on the wording with my counselor to make sure I wasn't saying anything aggressive that could be misinterpreted. She read the letter. Then she scrawled across it with her red Sharpie. Go get it elsewhere because you are not getting it from me. Then she walked out. I sat there for about an hour doing nothing. Then I told myself that was what I was going to do. We are both fairly successful in our jobs. I am not super attractive, but I'm fit and a good talker. It took a while, but I met someone. We started out as just friends, but it became physical. I made sure she knew I was married. She is not interested in a relationship, so I guess I'm a safe option for her. My wife found out because I did not try and hide it. She was crying when I got home one night. When I came in, she asked if I was going to leave her. I said no. She asked if I was cheating on her, and I said I was getting sex elsewhere. She said that I was cheating, and I did not disagree. I asked her what she wanted to do. She said I had to stop. I asked her if we were going to start doing it, and she said I was an irrational a-hole if I thought that she would sleep with me after I cheated. I went to my desk and pulled out a photocopy of the letter I wrote with her answer in it. I went to have a shower and go to my room to sleep. When I woke up, she was sitting on a couch waiting to talk. She said that she reread the letter and that she realized she had not before. She assumed it was just a letter begging for sex. She said she would go for counseling alone and with me. All I had to do was stop having it elsewhere. I said I would be willing to pause my friendship until we saw a counselor, and that if I saw progress in our relationship, I would break it off. She said she would not agree to counseling without me leaving the other woman. It almost turned into a fight, so I just went for my run. Before I left, I asked her what would compel her to go to counseling if I stopped having it elsewhere. When I got back, she still did not have an answer. She couldn't even say that our relationship was worth saving. I don't want a divorce, but I am willing to leave over this. I am 28. I'm not going the rest of my life without sex, but she refuses to see my side. Now for the top comments. Why don't you just leave her? I'm so confused. He's waiting for her to actually read a letter. She just assumed he was begging for sex. Holy crap. That's less than zero effort. I mean, they're not compatible. He knows it. We all know it. His wife apparently doesn't know it yet. LMAO. The fact that you made a photocopy of the letter tells me you already know this train is headed for Divorce Town. I am prepared for that eventuality. My brother and his ex-wife divorced for a lot of reasons, but one of which was his ex came out as asexual. He was lucky to have it a few times a year, more when they were trying to get pregnant. He's now got an awesome girlfriend he's crazy about and she's crazy about him. Told me how wonderful it is to feel desired. I honestly thought this was written by some middle-aged man. You're too young for that nonsense, bro. When I saw 28, I thought for sure he was 38 or 48 and it was a typo. Yeah, 40s this can happen, and the wife needs to take it serious and get her hormones checked. I went through it in my marriage, and it took a serious situation happening for her to see it. It is hard, because when they lose desire, they don't desire it, so don't have an overwhelming desire to fix it. 28 is way too young. I think the magic wore off and she got bored, and when women get bored, they tend to act in the manner OP describes. Funny part is, if that is the case, OP being with another woman is exactly what will snap her out of her boredom. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making my wife confess to all her friends and family that she cheated on me if she did not want a divorce? I, 34 male, have been married to my wife, 32 female, for 5 years, and we have 3 children. A few months ago, I found out from my wife's texts that she had been cheating on me, and I confronted her about it. She confessed to it and gave me an entire breakdown of her affair, which had lasted for a month. I was devastated and asked her why. She gave no excuses for it and said she had caught feelings for her affair partner which were wrong and she had acted on them. He was her coworker. I asked her if I lacked in anything and she said no, and she was in tears. I needed a few days to process this. My wife gave me space, but she asked me many times to reconsider divorce because it would uproot the lives of our children. She said she would do anything I wanted for the rest of my life. After a week, I decided that I needed only one thing from my wife to completely forgive her, and that was to call each and every one of her friends and family and confess her affair. I told her that was my only condition. She was really hesitant and asked me if I could reconsider the condition because this would ruin a lot of her friendships and family relationships. But I told her this was what I needed as a part of my forgiveness process, and that if she didn't do this, I was going to start looking for a divorce lawyer. Over the next week, my wife made a phone call to all of her friends, parents, grandparents, siblings, uncles, aunts, pretty much anyone she knew, and confessed her affair. It was hurtful and there was a lot of crying. My wife was hurled with a lot of shouting. By the week's end, my wife had called everyone I had wanted her to call. It has been a few months, and my wife and I actually have a really strong relationship now. However, my wife has pretty much become isolated from her friends and a lot of her family. This has hurt her a lot, and she spends a lot of nights crying. But she says this was worth it for our relationship and for our children. Am I the a-hole? I just feel like that's embarrassing for you too. You stayed with a cheating spouse. Like your wife crapped the bed, then had to tell her whole family and friends she crapped the bed, while you were in the bed sitting in the poop. Not embarrassing for him. He stayed to protect the family unit. She is the horrible partner who cheated. These are simply the consequences for very poor behavior. I find it more embarrassing for him that he made her call everyone and tell them thinking that would add something positive to the outcome. That was done as punishment in order to ensure that other people dished the punishment that he didn't have the backbone to dish. This was just the beginning of the end. The marriage won't last. Even if it doesn't last, he made sure that her family and friends knew she was a cheat. Doesn't matter what happens next, everyone important to her now knows not to trust her because she broke the trust in her marriage. Sounds like you win for OP either way. Next story. My ex-husband told me that it was my fault. I found out that my husband was cheating on me with my best friend last year. My best friend is very beautiful and she has always been fit. I have always loved how I look, but I am a happy eater. When I met my husband, I weighed 64 kilograms. I am 169 centimeters tall. By happy eater, I mean that when I am sad, I can't eat. I lose my appetite. When I'm happy, however, I love food because everything tastes a million times better. Everyone knows this about me, and some people find it weird. We were together for 10 years when he cheated. I weighed 89 kilograms. We never discussed why he cheated. I was just shell-shocked for the longest time, and when I came out of my trance, the reasons didn't matter anymore. I weigh 57 kilograms now. I lost it all in a few months, then I had to start working out because I was losing so much muscle. I found new joy in working out. Now we lift weights 5 times a week. We decided that I have full custody until our son is 3 years old, so we don't confuse him with different homes. Instead, my ex-husband takes him for a few hours every day. Now he just visits my apartment since I stopped wanting to vomit every time I saw him. I use the time to do chores or relax/work out or go out with friends. Yesterday I went for a brunch with some girlfriends. When I got home, my ex-husband looked at me weird. He has been looking weird at me lately, but I haven't bothered asking because I avoid any conversations outside of our son. He told me that I looked beautiful. I ignored it, so he got upset. He started bawling and said that he wished I made this effort when we were still married. He never loved anyone else. Cheating was his biggest regret, but that I share the blame too. That I am an a-hole for doing this to him now looking this way. I didn't know what to say first. I was raging inside, and I wanted to hit him or cry. I told him, well, you should not have made me happy during our marriage then. He called me an a-hole for my attempted joke and left. This is our first fight since what happened. I don't know now. Deep down, I feel that there's some truth in what he said. If I only put more effort, my son would have had his parents together. I feel so much guilt. I have cried nonstop since yesterday. Tell him, I wish you had said, if you don't lose weight, I'm going to bang your best friend. I would have left you then and saved us a load of time. Absolutely this. And no, you were not the a-hole. That's just an excuse. Your former best friend gave it to him, and they both can rot now. What would he say when you were 50? Well, if you got cosmetic surgery, I wouldn't have cheated. Beauty of the flesh is fleeting. Not the a-hole. Please don't let the cheater make you feel guilty. If he was uncomfortable with your appearance, he should have just said it in a kind way, and then you would have come up with something together as married people do. But no, he just cheated. Your son deserves his mom to be happy and healthy, not with someone who will cheat instead of protecting his marriage and then blame you. He never once told me about his problems with my weight. The next time he says anything, ask him why he didn't put in the effort to communicate with you about how he felt. What happened to your now ex-friend? I have a feeling ex-hubby and ex-friend are no longer together, which is why he is looking at her again. Isn't that often the case? They are divorced and the son isn't 3 years old yet. I have to wonder if the crux of ex-hubby's discontent wasn't her appearance but the baby. He might have been looking forward to becoming a father, but didn't find his pregnant wife attractive or sexy. He also might have become jealous of the baby because he was no longer the focus of his wife's attention after their son was born. A lot of men become jealous or resentful of the time and attention babies require. Whatever his reasoning for cheating, she's doing much better without the ex, which is better for their son. They're still together. OP, your husband is realizing that he and your best friend aren't compatible, and he's trying to get you back. It's better for a child when parents move on with their lives, rather than pretending to be a happy couple. Don't get back with him. Last story. Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my fiancé after he insisted on me forgiving my bio dad? So basically, I, 28 female, and my twin brother Leo, 28 male, were raised by my mother alone in our childhood. She was married to my dad, but divorced him when she found out he was cheating, and he just disappeared and didn't even pay child support when we were 4 years old. My mom raised us alone. She grew up with abusive parents. She was a teacher and did her best to take care of us. And she was and still is simply the best mom you could ask for. Never abusive or unfair, never showed any favoritism. She was always interested in us and was the perfect combination of a fun but responsible parent. As a result, my brother and I decided to do our best not to give her grief. We did our best in school, didn't cause trouble, and did all our chores. My mom started dating our stepdad, Carlos, who was her high school sweetheart when we were 11. And this guy was always the father we never had and loved us like his own. They also had our little sister Virginia, and we have been a big happy family. Now, our dad tried to reach us several times, but after a few disappointments, Leo and I decided to cut him off and appreciate that we had a great man like Carlos in our lives who swore to us that he would never leave us. Back to the present. I had been dating my now ex-fiancé Jonathan, 30 male, for 3 years. We had been engaged for a couple of months and living together, and everything seemed perfect. Except one thing. He sometimes would try to convince me to forgive my father and to invite him to our wedding. He knows everything that happened, but he is still insisting on the fact that he is family and I should forgive him. I draw the line when he invited his parents and tried to have an intervention. I had to hold my anger as I heard all their BS, and I was about to snap, but I forced myself to calm down. I just simply took off my ring, left it at a table, and said that we were done for good. They were all shocked as I stood up, grabbed my phone, and called my ex-boyfriend from high school, Lucas, 28 male, and explained what happened to him and asked for some help to go back to my hometown. Lucas and I dated for 4 years, from 14 to 18, and broke up due to distance. We were friends since we were 6 years old, so he was with me through all the disappointments that my bio dad gave me. We're still friends and see each other when we go back home and often call each other. He was angry and told me he would be there right away. The town is only an hour away from the city I was living in. I started to pack my stuff while him and his parents kept trying to make me change my mind, but I just ignored and called my mom and brother to tell them the wedding was off and that I would be going back home for a while. They kept telling me I was exaggerating, that I was choosing wrong, but I just packed everything I owned and Lucas showed up pretty quick. Of course, my ex-fiancé was mad that I had called my ex-boyfriend, but I didn't care, and Lucas and I just went back home. Luckily, I work from home, so I don't have any problem moving whenever I want. I can work from anywhere. I decided to let know all my close circle what had happened right away, and they're all on my side. I arrived at my hometown, and my stepdad, mom, and little sister received me with a lot of love and told me I needed to do what felt right and not to force myself to get myself in a marriage if my fiancé can't even respect my boundaries and invalidates my feelings. Lucas said that I deserve someone better and to try to focus on moving on. However, Jonathan's friends and family is still berating me for breaking up with him in front of his parents and leaving with my ex just like that. But in my defense, he didn't give me a choice. Part of me is thinking they're only doing it because they're his family and friends. But part of me is starting to believe that maybe, yeah, I handled things wrong. I don't regret breaking up with him. It hurts, but it just feels better like this. But maybe I was too harsh? I don't know. Am I the a-hole? I want to know why this family is so insistent on a cheater being forgiven. I'd be incredibly suspicious of that. Not the a-hole. I had an abusive parent that I cut off. I've had so many friends and partners who just don't get it. Who insist, but they are family. You have to forgive. My ex-BFF in college was reporting everything I did to my abusive parent. I just wanted to help you. Your parent loves you and is worried. I've learned to stay away from people who insist on reunification more than once. They never stop because they have no clue what a bad family really is. They can't comprehend it, and they will keep pushing until they get the Disney reunion they want. Because they truly don't believe family could ever do something so awful, and you must be exaggerating or misunderstood. They never stop because they have no clue what a bad family really is. Some of them don't know, but some of them know, and they're just enabling this. Cheaters enable cheaters, abusers enable abusers. In situations like yours or like OP, I always would ask if they're ignorant or enablers. This strikes really close to home. My wife wants me to reconcile with my abusive mother. She lets slide her siblings who are abusive to their kids, so she's an enabler. This explains a lot. Thank you for this insight.